This is the ClarkCast podcast on ClarkCast.com.
Saving the Republic, one broadcast at a time. My name is Matt Clark. This is the ClarkCast. Hit me up behind the scenes, Matt with 2 T's at ClarkCast.com. I want to bring somebody up who's a little bit more optimistic than I am. Not that I'm, this big doom and gloom guy, because everybody knows that I'm not. No, definitely not. But I heard Doc Thompson say something a little bit ago that I want to question him about. But first, what I want to do is, first of all, introduce Doc Thompson of the Blaze Radio Network,
Hello.
Also a guy who unfortunately dragged me into this industry.
Mm-hmm. Dragged. Okay.
Dragged.
Helped. It used to be helped. Now it's dragged. Nice. All right.
Kicking and screaming, sir. How are you, Doc?
I'm doing well, sir.
Also next to him is producer and co-host,
Yeah,
Skip.
He dragged me into this industry as well.
We're going down, man.
I know.
Going down. Gentlemen, welcome. How are you?
Doing well.
Doing well, thank you.
Welcome to the Great Lakes State. Welcome to 7-degree weather. How's it feel? Global warming, man.
Yeah, I know. It's very good. Very good.
Yeah, I don't do well with the cold. I am not a cold weather climate kind of guy.
No. All right, Doc. I have to ask you this question. You said you are more optimistic now than you've ever been.
In the last few years.
In the last
yes.
few years. Why
Yeah.
is that?
I'm optimistic because I think people are starting to figure it out. I mean, if you study progressivism, all of the horrible things that have come out of it, it's not sustainable. It's just not.
No.
It will not last forever. Yeah, there's a lot more bad to come, but we have come through so much, and because of stuff like Obamacare and the failures being so obvious, I think more and more people are starting to figure it out, especially people that are college age that are going, wait a minute. Wait, I have to pay for people, and I may never use those services with Obamacare? Yeah, that's right. You could die at 40 having never used them, but you paid somebody else. They're starting to figure it out. So I think we have more pain, but whether it's the midterm election about a year, the presidential election 4 years or 2 years after that, people are going to put more good people in office, and I think we're on the right track.
Imagine what they'll say when they learn that Social Security is a Ponzi scheme.
Yeah, that's the next one. One of the things that I wish somebody would challenge them on. Do you remember how one of the ways they sold Obamacare was, competition is good, right?
Free market. Come on.
Right.
They should
played
love
into
it.
that.
Yeah.
They played into conservatives and said it's free market. How can we not support it? Well, I wish people would turn that around and go, follow your own example when you said that about Obamacare. Shouldn't we have exchanges then or something else for Social Security? Wouldn't that work then?
No. That wouldn't work at all. Is it because, let me back up. You're currently traveling all across the country. You're actually in Southeast Michigan because you are producing or creating a documentary.
Yeah, that's right.
Before we get into that, is that really the catalyst or the reason behind you being a little bit more optimistic because you're on the grassroots, you're on the front lines, talking to people? Skip, if you want to go ahead and toss something in here as well.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's been one of the most refreshing things is that people are finally waking up. And actually, last month we went on a multi-city tour. We hit 11 different cities in 14 days. And saw people on the ground, and people really are waking up. You see news reports all across the country of people starting to figure out that some of these policies this president is putting forth are just not sustainable and, quite frankly, bad.
No, he's absolutely right. And when we meet the people, it's not the rallies. If you're not actively involved in a Tea Party, you probably think, well, it's kind of petering out because you don't see the rallies. Even when you did see the rallies, of course, they were presented negatively, but at least you saw some of them, right?
The trifold hats didn't help either.
Yeah.
So.
Right,
throw that out there.
Exactly. But when you meet the different Tea Parties and you go and you talk to the people, you realize, no, they're not having a lot of rallies now. What they're working on is policy. They're getting people elected. They're getting ideas pushed through, whether it's legislation or people elected.
You spoke about the youth just briefly there because it really is, the youth is waking up. I recently went to U of M, the University of Michigan's campus, spoke with the college libertarian there. And on a front line, I mean, you can't get more front line than the University of Michigan.
Yeah.
And even there, they're starting to wake up. He was telling me about a class where, I forget the title of the class, but they were pretty much asking the question, were the founding fathers the equivalent of today's jihadists?
I know.
And you don't even have to, you can trust without verifying that class
Right.
exists. But people see that in the youth. They say, what the hell? WTF? I mean, how many of the youth do you talk about? How many youngsters do you speak to? Is it something that you're seeing a little bit more broadly, or do you speak to people that are my age or younger, Skip not included, whether or not they get it?
No, it's everybody. Yeah, there's certainly a lot of youth we've talked to as well. We've met more. We're going to be doing more as part of the Tea Party documentary we're working on. But there is, regardless of the emos out there, I call them emos, those are the people that are so emotional they can't use common sense at all, as opposed to applied emotion, applied common sense, also called progressives. They can't do this. There are more people out there, though, that go, that's just not right. They may not know all policy, they may not have every angle, but when you hear about classes like that, you're like, this is asinine. This is ridiculous. Why am I here? How is this going to help me in my accounting degree, number one? And number two, I know that's not right. It can't be right. Even if they don't know why, they know it.
And one other thing, too, that has been kind of refreshing is we've really embraced Twitter as a medium on our show, too. And being able to see people tweeting at us and that interaction with younger people has been huge for us. It's been one of the best avenues we've had to promote our show, promote our brand. And people are really waking up, and we see it. We see it in real time with things like Facebook and Twitter.
A couple of people we met on the tour is some teenagers whose parents have drug them to meetings at times, and now they're really engaged. They get it. We met a girl. Well, who's the girl who tweets at us? Do you recall?
Sarah.
Yeah, Sarah from, that was North Carolina. And her family has a bluegrass band that she plays, and they drag her to these bluegrass band events, and she plays the fiddle, and
I love it.
Really, really smart and engaged. So she tweets at us, and she's like, listen, I learn more from listening to people like you and people like Glenn Beck and people like Matt Clark, she goes, than I ever learned in school. So she's really engaged.
Oh, very much so. A lot of what I do in seeing everything that's going on, I mean, you can pick almost any example from history, American history, and say, what did you learn in school? And I'll say, well, I learned A, but B really happened. And it's so unfortunate. I mean, Glenn came out with his new book, Miracles and Massacres. It is so unbelievable, some of the A and B comparisons, and you see the agenda. Let's go back to that professor. You see the agenda clear and in front of you, and you see what they're doing. And as long as people wake up, we have hope to save the Republic.
Yeah, I think you're right. You've read portions of that one?
Portions. I'm not all the way through it yet.
Skip and I haven't read any, but the way we understand it, it's both miracles and massacres, right?
Yeah,
it's both the miracles and
a little bit of A, a
massacres.
little bit
Like
of
true
B.
and untold stories of America's founding. That's just amazing.
Yeah.
Speaking right now with Doc Thompson and Skip Lacombe, they are with the Blaze Radio Network, and more specifically with the Morning Blaze, heard every weekday 6 to 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Now, you spoke about the Tea Party documentary. We said we'd come back to it, so why don't you give a little bit more of a background?
Yeah, we're working on a Tea Party documentary because we realize nobody's told the truth about the Tea Parties. The information just isn't out there. We know how the media has twisted it. They've edited tapes outright to make it look bad.
Yeah.
And we're going to tell the true story from beginning to end, ideas, values, and let people decide for themselves.
What is something that you've discovered on this journey?
Number one, how connected people are with Tea Parties that are entrepreneurs. And I don't mean just people who start business. I don't mean that, but have an entrepreneurial spirit. The attitude that says, I can do that. I have a better way to do that, whatever it is. That has been amazing on our trip. One of the other things is more details about the Boston Tea Party. I knew the basic story. I knew probably a little more than the average person. Now researching it, absolutely amazing. And the anniversary is coming up Monday.
Excellent.
For the Boston Tea Party.
So were they just like the jihadist terrorists, like the professor will make us
They
believe?
were much worse than that. They were much more evil than that.
Okay. Did they
one of the cool things about the Boston Tea Party, I'll share you, as they made their way onto the three ships and they started destroying, they cracked open these cases and started tossing the tea into the harbor, there were thousands of people on shore watching them. Thousands of people watching them. And as John Adams even mentioned, the people were perfectly quiet. He said it was more quiet than an evening of the Sabbath or something like that, like a Sunday night. Perfectly quiet, just watching this unfold. It's incredible.
Now, when is this documentary scheduled to come out?
Hopefully spring, hopefully around tax day, which would be appropriate.
Very appropriate. Liberal patriotism
5-year anniversary
day.
of the
Excellent.
Tea Party, yeah.
Excellent. Now, do you have a camera crew that's following you right now, or?
Not at this moment, but yeah,
Okay.
we work with camera crew, and they'll be with us tonight.
Excellent. Now, I want to look a little bit more to the future. We started by talking about how optimistic you are about the future. I still believe there's hope to save the Republic. I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing if there wasn't, in my opinion. But what are the biggest obstacles that we see? You're optimistic, but if A, B, and C doesn't happen, we don't have a chance. What are the A, B, and C?
I'm trying to think if what doesn't happen or what needs to happen. I would say if we don't get the youth, if we don't continue to make sure younger people figure out what's going on, if we don't get a hold of spending and tax reform, that's got to happen at some level. I mean, we might be behind the eight ball with that anyways. It might be too late with $17 trillion.
$17 trillion, whatever.
Well, it's the unfunded liabilities of 100 trillion. That's the real problem. And then if we're not careful with amnesty, those three are probably the keys to it right there.
Skip, let me ask you, because you're only 2 years and a year and a half older than I am. what are your friends, what are people your age really thinking and saying? Because, Doc said we have to capture the youth. Yes, probably.
They're saying, can I have another? Give me another.
Well, and of my friends, I would say I generally associate myself with people who are generally like-minded to me. And I mean, most of the people I talk to just want to be left alone, want to be able to live their life the way they see fit. As long as they're not hurting anybody, they want to be able to do
perfect
what
libertarian
they want.
definition. If it doesn't pick my pocket or break my leg,
That's
leave me alone.
And these are good people. I mean, I've got friends that smoke marijuana. They do it at their home and they do it recreawant
Oh my gosh, what's their number? Let's get them on.
But these aren't dangerous people though, and these aren't people that need to be locked up because they're hardened criminals. They want to live their life, and as long as they aren't hurting anybody else, they're fine. And people really are starting to wake up to that idea and thought. For the longest time, they were pitched this hope and change and sunshine and rainbows from Barack Obama. And now that they're actually seeing what they're getting, it's not sunshine and rainbows. So I think they are starting to leave that more liberal progressivism, democratic state to more of a libertarian way of thought.
I don't know if they're connecting A and B yet. And by the way, I don't know how many times I've used A and B in my overall dialogue. I'm going to start changing up to 1 and 2.
C and D? Could we move on?
But, a lot of people, like you said, yes, I don't want to pay for Obamacare. Obamacare was a lie, this, and that. But I don't know if they're necessarily able to connect, oh my gosh, this is progressivism. Oh my gosh, this is big government. And while at heart they may want to have this leave me alone mentality, they're not connecting that with how they vote. And by the way, I'm not saying Republican or Democrat.
Right.
I'm just saying how they vote in general.
Here's the thing, though, and you can't throw all of this stuff. I mean, you're talking advanced studies here now. Matt, I mean, what you do every day, it's advanced studies. It really is. You're getting layer upon layer into this stuff. And it's good, and you're right, and you know that. For a lot of people out there, if you can at least get them into the store, then they'll start figuring out. But it has to start with, look at this. And how do you do that? You can't dump on them. Well, if you get to the alternative minimum tax versus people get lost in this stuff. You have to hit them with some really basic concepts, and then it starts opening their eyes. And they have that hunger for more. One of the tools that Skip and I use that brings people in is humor, because people get it. If you can make it entertaining, then they start, wow, oh, wait, what was that little thing you said? And then their eyes become open, and then they start digging themselves.
Well, and this whole political scene is a bit of a paradox, because at the same time, it's remarkably simple and remarkably complicated. You can take a look at history and see the same things that are happening right now, and you can look at that and extrapolate, of course, we're doing the same things, we're getting the same results. But at the same time, it's so complicated, so convoluted, and you have so many people it's in their best interest to skew the facts and to misrepresent what they're doing to confuse you.
Skip Lacombe, Doc Thompson of the Blaze Radio Network. Gentlemen, I'm glad that you're in the trenches fighting.
We're in the trenches. I'm in one trench, kind of with Glenn. Skip's kind of in another trench by himself. He's not in I'm not sure I want him in my trench directly, but a trench nearby.
Well, see, that way we're covering more than just one trench.
Yeah, we got a lot of trenches covered. If you get a chance, please tweet at us, though. It's at Doc Thompson Show and at Skip Lacombe. At Doc Thompson Show and at Skip Lacombe. I was shamelessly promoting you, too.
Gentlemen, it's a pleasure. I greatly appreciate that. After the break here, we're going to talk about global warming. Going to have Steve Gorham back on the program right here. 7-degree weather. I really don't think global warming exists. I could be wrong, but we're going to find out more in just a few moments.
This
Get way too complicated for me.
is the Clarkcast with Matt Clark.
Deep Drill & Machine can handle your drilling needs. Working with a wide variety of metals, Deep Drill & Machine has the experience with newly developed materials as well, with large handling capabilities and the expertise to get the job done. Feed screws, spindles, and cooling plates are just some of the products they drill, with the ability to drill diameters ranging from 1/8 of an inch up to 4.5 inches. Their facility is over 7,000 square feet, set up to effectively handle and produce the results their customers require. From automotive to forging, tool and die to machine repair, Deep Drill & Machine services many industries, and they can service yours. For more information, visit them online at www.deepdrillmachine.com or call them at 313-295-3357. That's 313-295-3357. 313-295-3357. And again, online at www.deepdrillmachine.com.
Does your business's website stand out? Does it catch an eye or two? At Waypoint Arts, we design and develop each project from scratch with an original and unique flair. If you're looking for a web design service that specializes in delivering the wow effect to your guests, then let us get started on your project today. Need a design for a poster or flyer? We can help. Visit us online at waypointarts.com or drop us a line at 855-WAY-ARTS.
The noise that you hear at the moment
is the Clarkcast with Matt Clark.
Saving the Republic, one broadcast at a time. My name is Matt Clark. This is the Clarkcast. Steve Gorham is the author of the book, The Mad, Mad, Mad World of Climatism. He's also the executive director of the Climate Science Coalition of America, and he joins me right now. Steve, welcome back to the program, sir. How are you?
Great to join you. Happy holidays. I'm great.
Same to you, sir. Same to you. Now, I'm overlooking right now a bunch of snow. Now, it is December, so I don't know. Common sense tells me there's supposed to be snow, but yet at the same time, global warming exists. Can you help me out on that a little bit? I'm not getting the bigger picture.
Well, this is regular weather, and we got single digits here in Chicago. A little bit early winter, but nothing out of the ordinary. But it's been actually a year, 2013, that's been free of those extreme weather events that scientists have been talking about. We've had 13 lowest number of tornadoes in 13 years, the lowest number of 100-degree days in a century during the 2013 in the United States, and we only had 2 hurricanes off the coast, the East Coast and the Atlantic, and not a single Category 3 hurricane, and that hasn't happened in 45 years. So it's been a year without extreme events.
Well, we saw not too long ago, there was a report that came out that said global warming stopped 16 years ago. I don't know if we're on 17 years now. I don't recall how old that report is. Can you speak about that a little bit?
Yeah, it's about 17 years now. It goes back to about 1996 or 1997. Global temperatures have been flat, confounding the climate models. All of the world's top 44 climate models were wrong. They all predicted faster rise in global temperatures. So, nature isn't cooperating with the theory of dangerous man-made warming.
Don't you hate when nature gets in the way of what man says? Now, there's a few things that I want to play a little devil's advocate here, because you brought up the lack of tornadic activity, the lack of large hurricanes, but global warming, climate change, global climate disruption, insert whatever buzz phrase, advocates will say, well, hold on. Yeah, there may be a decrease in the amount of tornadic activity, but look at what happened in Oklahoma earlier on this year. How would you respond to the more dramatic storms?
Yeah, that was a level 5 tornado. The United States actually gets about 90% of the world's tornadoes, an average of 1,253 tornadoes a year, and usually about one of those is a Category 5 tornado every year. So it's not something that's abnormal. And actually, if you look at the number of level 3 to level 5 tornadoes, the severe storms, according to the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, that has been on a decline. We had more of those in the 1960s and 1970s, and fewer over the last few years.
So when you start seeing a lot of these storms come into the 24-hour news cycle, if you will, is that where a lot of the hype and a lot of the, oh my gosh, this is global warming because look at all the increase in da-da-da-da-da. Is that the reason why there's such a big alarm right now, is because of the 24-hour news cycle, because people are able to throw a camera on it and talk about it for, like I said, 24 hours straight?
Yeah, I think that's part of it. The news, they used to name hurricanes. Now they're trying to name regular storms. So, that means they must be worse, right?
Right, exactly.
But the other angle is the global warming alarmists can't talk about warming anymore because we've had these flat temperatures. So they're resorting to talking about every storm, like Hurricane Sandy, like it's a catastrophic or an abnormal event. And so there's a little bit of a hype from that crowd as well.
It's nonstop. It really is nonstop. Now, when we start seeing a lot of these flat temperatures, as you just said, I mean, this past summer here, I like warm weather, despite me living in Michigan. I consider myself a Floridian at heart, but I was very disappointed with this summer. I mean, I don't recall it breaking 90 that often.
Yeah, it was a little bit of a cool summer, and that was great. And it was a rebound because the year before we had the drought and the very hot temperatures, and there were some people that said we had a 1,000-year climate drought occurring here, but it didn't last very long. So, but it's just one of those things that comes and goes.
All right, I want to play a cultural reference. I'm sure you're familiar with The Simpsons. And a lot of the politics behind The Simpsons, for lack of a better phrase, leans to the left. Let's just keep it at that. And when they were addressing global warming a couple years back, I remember recording this audio soundbite when it aired, because for me, it's having your cake and eat it too. You'll see what I mean, or you'll hear what I mean after I play this audio soundbite here. Take a listen.
Gee, Lisa, looks like tomorrow I'll be shoveling 10 feet of global warming.
Global warming can cause weather at both extremes, hot and cold.
I see, so you're saying warming makes it colder. Well, aren't you the queen of crazy land? Everything's the opposite of everything.
All right, so here's my biggest problem. When you have people that initially said it's global warming, and then all of a sudden you see a flat line of rising temperatures, like we said 17 years ago, it stopped. And for me, it seems that, oh no, we're wrong, but we want to still be right because we have our reputations, we have whatever. And so in order to further the agenda, we must come up with something. And so global warming is now, well, anytime there's a weather on this end or something else happens, it falls under the same global warming category because, well, we tell you it is.
Perfect example of that is snowfall. We had a little bit of a shortage of snow across the world about 10 years ago for several years. And here's a quote from David Archer and Stephen Ramsdorf in their book, The Climate Crisis. Quote, one of the robust findings of the IPCC Fourth Assessment Report is that snow cover in most continental areas will dramatically decrease unless warming is stopped. Large areas are expected to become snow-free. And there were a lot of scientists that were saying that, but if you look at the actual data at Rutgers University, they have a department called the Snow Lab. If you look at that data, they show that North American snow cover has been rising for about the last 40 years, the extent of snow cover. So the actual data doesn't really show that snow is declining. And then we got, across the world, big snowfalls in 2008, 9, and 10, and then the tune changed. We had scientists now saying that this was evidence of man-made climate change, greater degrees of snowfall. So it's a chameleon, this whole thing, and just about any event is evidence that man's causing warming.
And we were also told by the likes of Al Gore and crew that Florida would, over time, be underwater because of the rising level of the ocean. Now we're seeing an increase of Arctic ice, aren't we?
Well, the ice is, we've had a very fast recovery in this last year with Arctic ice, but if you look at the long-term trends, that's kind of a minor thing. Over the last 30 years, we've had Arctic ice declining, but Antarctic ice at the South Pole has been increasing over 30 years, and that's 90% of the Earth's ice. On balance, Earth ice caps are down a little bit over the last 30 years, but really minor in the scheme of things. But yeah, there's some great simulations of Florida being flooded. I have one in my book, The Mad, Mad, Mad World of Climatism, done by the University of Arizona. And Al Gore had, I think he had about 8 or 10 pages in his book, The Inconvenient Truth, that showed all these areas around the world being flooded when the oceans rose. But the oceans have been rising at the rate of about a quarter a year, a thickness of a quarter a year, maybe a quarter plus a dime, very, very small amount. And even that, the errors when they're trying to measure that are much larger than the actual rise.
The way that it's being portrayed is Disney World would bring a new meaning to under the sea within a decade or so, but that really isn't the case. And as you've pointed out, and you corrected me on Arctic ice to Antarctic ice, you have to look at what's really going on and factor in the growth or the percentage of decay, whatever the case may be, and really apply the mathematics and what's going on to everything. And that's conveniently left out of the argument. Yeah,
sea levels have risen about 7 inches over the last 100 years. They're rising at a rate of about 7 inches per century. No data to show that they're accelerating. And that's a natural rise. That's been going on for 20,000 years. And so we need to adapt to that like mankind has always done.
Wait a minute, there was CO2 emissions 20,000 years ago that really started global warming? Is that what you're saying, sir?
Yeah, right.
Steve Gorham is the author of The Mad, Mad, Mad World of Climatism, Mankind, Climate Change Mania. He's also the executive director of the Climate Science Coalition of America. Steve, we're hitting a hard break right now. Let's bring you right back up after a few commercials right here.
Stay tuned for more of the Clarkcast with Matt Clark.
So what is the best way to get your message out? to make your business known? Well, that's easy. It's advertising on radio programs like the Clarkcast. See, unlike music stations, talk radio demands awareness and thought. You don't believe me? You're listening to me right now. You're thinking about this message right now. And our listeners, they pay attention, not only to the programming, but to the advertisements that air throughout the show. If you want to build your business's presence not only to Southeast Michigan, but also online around the world, consider advertising on the Clarkcast and this radio station. There are several packages available, and there's one to suit your budgetary needs. So what do you say? Let's get started. Drop us an email, and we'll discuss the best way to get your message across on WAAM, on the Clarkcast, and online. It's pretty easy. It's pretty simple to do. All you got to do is email advertise@clarkcast.com. That's advertise@clarkcast.com.
Does your business's website stand out? Does it catch an eye or two? At Waypoint Arts, we design and develop each project from scratch with an original and unique flair. If you're looking for a web design service that specializes in delivering the wow effect to your guests, then let us get started on your project today. Need a design for a poster or flyer? We can help. Visit us online at waypointarts.com or drop us a line at 855-WAY-ARTS.
This is the Clarkcast.
We will not surrender for it now or ever.
With Matt Clark.
Welcome back to it. My name is Matt Clark. This is the Clarkcast. Joining me on the phone right now is Steve Gorham, the author of the book, The Mad, Mad, Mad World of Climatism, Mankind and Climate Change Mania. He's also the executive director of the Climate Science Coalition of America. Steve, there's so much I still want to get into, but what we've done in the previous segment here is really just start debunking the whole global warming myth. And I guess the takeaway message, and tell me if you agree, is really global warming stopped 17 years ago, and yet they're still pushing the mania because it fits their agenda.
Yeah, that is true. Well, people have built their careers on this. All the governments of the world have adopted this theory, leading corporations, universities, the United Nations, the news media. So it has a lot of momentum. It's going to take a long time, long period of cooling before this comes to an end. Well,
you mentioned reputations, and let me play something here for you. Sam Champion is an ABC, or was an ABC meteorologist recently, actually. He has moved over to the Weather Channel. He had the following to say. I really want to get your reaction to what he has to say here. Take a listen.
I think one of the big headlines is that we could feel the effects of global warming sooner rather than later.
Yeah, that's what's in this report, and why everyone's trying to jump this report that officially comes out Friday on Robin. There are big new headlines, and some of them are coming out of Australian media reports. Now, they say that those scientists in Paris will estimate that between 1.1 and 3.2 billion people will suffer from water shortage problems by 2080. Now, that's not your grandchildren, that's your children. And between 200 million and 600 million more people will be going hungry.
What's your response to that?
Well, these are typical forecasts. They're talking about the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change Fifth Assessment Report that was released a month or two ago, with a lot of forecasts about world agriculture declining, that we're going to have water shortages, we're going to have a lot of other things. Again, these things are not supported by empirical data. They're all based on computer model projections. For example, I just wrote an article in the Washington Times about agriculture. 2013 was a great year for global agriculture. We had record global rice crops. We're talking about record crops in corn, wheat, and rice next year. And these things, agriculture has been increasing for many, many years, and you really have to wonder when the climate-induced agriculture failure is going to kick in. There doesn't seem to be any evidence of it. Same thing with these water shortages. Water is an issue that we need to make sure we have enough of and we use wisely, but it's not being destroyed by climate change. We have basically a constant amount of water and fresh water around the world. So a lot of these fears are unfounded.
What is the justification for it? I know you just said it's unfounded, but I mean, try to rationalize it. Why would somebody come out like, Sam Champion, who is a national meteorologist? He's on national television. Yes, it's his reputation, but if it's unfounded, why would somebody spout something like that?
Well, there's several things going on. One is that the world jumped to a conclusion back in 1988. Computer modelers from the climate science modeling camp came and said the world was warming up, mankind was causing it. There's a motivation in the science industry, if you will, to support the theory of man-made warming because it drives research funding. It builds careers. And then you have another group of organizations that use the theory of man-made warming to foster their own ends. The United Nations is one of those who has certain objectives. The environmental groups, the European community, wind and solar, and biofuel industries. So there are many, many organizations, carbon traders, the banks, many organizations that build on this theory of man-made warming to promote their own interests and the interests of their businesses. So and the world is spending now more than $1 billion a day to try and decarbonize. So we're talking about big money and big business here.
Yeah. What's the saying? Follow the money. It all goes back to money. I think that's extremely applicable.
Again, the world jumped to a conclusion on this mistakenly, and now money is driving this whole ideology.
Well, you mentioned the United Nations, and there was a huge, and I said the word agenda several times, although it was a lowercase a, but the United Nations and agenda with an uppercase A are very much similar, and we've talked about Agenda 21 several times on this program, the two of us here. Expand upon that a little bit. Go ahead and give a recap of that, and let's take it from there.
Yeah, the United Nations has had three or four underlying objectives for a long period of time. One of those is a concern about overpopulation. They're concerned about that. They'd like to reduce that. And they've pointed out that every person contributes carbon footprint, so we need to reduce, population to help with global warming. They're concerned about the disparity in wealth between the developed and the developing nations, and so they want to transfer money from the industrialized to the developing nations, and they're calling for a $100 billion annual climate fund to do that. They also want to reduce what they call overconsumption and overproduction of consumer goods. They think those are bad. You can go right to their website and see what they say about that. Well, the theory of man-made warming and the idea that we have to restrict energy and restrict industry supports all of these objectives. And of course, much of this is captured, as you mentioned, in Agenda 21, which says basically, we have overpopulation issues, we have pollution issues, we have climate issues, and we have resource depletion issues, all of those things. And so all of these serve the objectives of the United Nations.
The real danger of all of this is not just the wealth redistribution, but it's the Agenda 21 overall program has really sunk its teeth into a local aspect of our lives. I mean, with ICLEI, for example, it is really, the tentacles, the roots, whatever analogy you want to use, are really deep in this.
Yeah, well, sustainable development that every university, every corporation has adopted comes directly from Agenda 21, and it basically says we must have top-down government restriction of resource use, of energy use, of industry and other things, and so it's affected our society in many ways, and often to the detriment of citizens and businesses.
Steve Gorham is the author of the book, The Mad, Mad, Mad World of Climatism, Mankind and Climate Change Mania. He's also the executive director of the Climate Science Coalition of America. Now, the EPA, the Environmental Protection Agency, I don't even know where to begin with that. I mean, just talk about regulation without legislation. They almost take the marching orders, in my opinion, from the United Nations, from the global warming fanatics, and say, no, we will put a cap on X, or we will tell you to do B, in order to make sure that we curb global warming, in order to make sure we're more environmentally friendly. And while to some that may sound, oh, no, we're helping the environment, it's great, that is dangerous, if anything else, is it not?
Well, it is, and the EPA has become President Obama's unilateral instrument to impose carbon dioxide restrictions on society and industry because legislation could not be passed in Congress. And the rubber is really meeting the road right now. They're in the process of passing regulations that basically prohibit the building of new coal-fired power plants and also to require all existing coal-fired power plants to adopt carbon capture, which is a very expensive process. Today, the United States gets about 37% of its electricity from coal-fired power plants. The state of Michigan gets about 60%, state of Illinois 47%. And this is our cheapest form of electricity. And so we're going to force this out of the way. We're going to have to switch to other forms of electricity, and it's going to raise costs for every citizen in the United States, and particularly the poor who provide a bigger share of their income for utilities. It's going to hurt them the most. So it's very, very poor policy. And the bottom line also is that no matter what policy the EPA passes, it's not going to have a measurable effect on global temperatures. So it's a foolish policy. It's going to hurt citizens and businesses. And everyone needs to be aware, and we need to work to try and prevent this or roll it back.
Did you say 60% of electricity in the state of Michigan is from coal?
Yeah, I have 2010 figures. At that time, it was 67% from coal. I think it's gone down some. You're using more gas, but it's still 55 to 60%, I believe.
Oh, of course it's going down. He's getting rid of our coal power plants.
Yeah.
Well, during the campaign season in 2008, 2007, Barack Obama had a very, very, very infamous audio soundbite. I don't have it queued up right now, but he said, under my plan, your electricity rates will necessarily skyrocket. And a lot of people dismissed it. A lot of people shrugged it off. Others, like me, said, well, wait a minute, that should be one of the biggest red flags when it comes to, one, having economic prosperity, saying that our energy, our lifeblood of our economy is going to be increasing. And two, it should be a good indication of where this guy wants to take us in a more global aspect.
Yeah, the president's been true to his word on that. He also had, paraphrasing, he said something like, well, you can build a coal plant, but it will bankrupt you.
Yes.
So it is very unfortunate, and not only coal plants, but we have corporate average fuel economy standards that will be coming in over the next few years to reach 54.5 miles per gallon by the year 2025. So you better hold on to that SUV or that minivan. They're going to get to be expensive and hard to find.
Oh, but we'll all be driving Chevy Volts, so
yeah.
Don't worry. It's all good. Aside from picking up your book, The Mad World of Climatism, how can folks get more involved? How can folks get more engaged? Because when they hear you speaking on the radio, it's great information. But oftentimes my listeners just say, well, now what? How can folks get more involved and more engaged?
Well, first they need to educate themselves. And that means reading my book and looking a little bit at what's going on with the climate and regulations, and figuring out that a lot of things that are driving our society are based on this misguided theory of man-made climate change. Another thing from a legislative point of view they can do is roll back these renewable portfolio standards laws. Both Michigan and Illinois, where I am today, have these laws. They require our utilities to buy an increasing percentage of renewable energy or be fined. Those are very expensive. They're going to be raising electricity rates for all of our citizens. That's something we ought to be rolling back. There are 29 states with RPS laws, 8 with goals. Those should be changed across the country, and that will help our economy get going again and take away a lot of this unneeded regulation.
One last question here. Where do you see the climate change, global climate disruption, global warming argument in, let's say, 4 years from now?
Well, I think it's going to become increasingly hard to defend. In my book, last chapter, I say climatism is headed for a crash. There's a lot of reasons for this. First, the science is faulty. We have diplomatic deadlock on a global scale. Renewable energy has been a failure, and nations are pulling back in many locations. Public opinion is changing, and global temperatures are flat to cooling. So I think we're going to eventually come out of this, but again, this is like a cargo ship with a lot of momentum, hard to turn around. It's going to take many, many years.
Yeah, similar to, I don't know your stance on the Affordable Care Act, but similar to Obamacare, it's only when people's health care insurance are canceled that they start waking up a little bit. And by that point, it's almost too late. So I don't know whether it takes a big hammer to the head, metaphorically speaking, of, oh, wait a minute, it's not warming. It's only 70-something as an average during the summer here. Where's my 90-degree summer? I don't know what it'll take. But the man right now is Steve Gorham. He's the author of the book, The Mad World of Climatism. He's also the executive director of the Climate Science Coalition of America. Steve, I appreciate you coming back on the program here, talking a little global warming and shedding a light on the situation.
Thanks, man. I'm always at your service.
Thank you. All the best. Stay tuned. Don't go anywhere.
This is the Clarkcast with Matt Clark.
On the battlefield, there's a saying America's military men and women live by. Never leave a fallen warrior behind, ever. Off the battlefield, Wounded Warrior Project operates with the same goal. We leave no warrior behind. Wounded Warrior Project is a non-profit organization created to help our men and women returning home with the scars of war. Whether those scars are physical or mental, we're here to make sure that they heal. And whether it's helping those with post-traumatic stress disorder live a normal life again, or giving much-needed support to injured warriors in veterans' hospitals. Because no one deserves our help more than the men and women who risk their lives to keep us safe. Wounded Warrior Project. We never leave a fallen warrior behind. Ever. Learn more about what we do at woundedwarriorproject.org.
Deep Drill & Machine can handle your drilling needs. Working with a wide variety of metals, Deep Drill & Machine has the experience with newly developed materials as well, with large handling capabilities and the expertise to get the job done. Feed screws, spindles, and cooling plates are just some of the products they drill, with the ability to drill diameters ranging from 1/8 of an inch up to 4.5 inches. Their facility is over 7,000 square feet, set up to effectively handle and produce the results their customers require. From automotive to forging, tool and die to machine repair, Deep Drill & Machine services many industries, and they can service yours. For more information, visit them online at www.deepdrillmachine.com or call them at 313-295-3357. That's 313-295-3357. 313-295-3357. And again, online at www.deepdrillmachine.com.
Does your business's website stand out? Does it catch an eye or two? At Waypoint Arts, we design and develop each project from scratch with an original and unique flair. If you're looking for a web design service that specializes in delivering the wow effect to your guests, then let us get started on your project today. Need a design for a poster or flyer? We can help. Visit us online at waypointarts.com or drop us a line at 855-WAY-ARTS.
Matt Clark. This is the Clarkcast.
Have someone on your Christmas list you really don't care for, but you're obligated to give them something, anything? There's no better way to tell someone, I really don't care, but I have to do this anyway, than to give them the Matt Clark Christmas album. It's full of great songs, but oversung horribly by the host of the Clarkcast.
I'm dreaming of a white Christmas, just like the ones I used to know.
Classic songs that have been butchered.
Christmas Eve will find me where the love light beams.
I mean, this is just horrible.
They know that Santa is on his way. He's loaded lots of toys and goodies on his sleigh.
Talk about the war on Christmas, but from the right?
Let it snow, baby, just let it snow. But I would like to point out that it's getting a little bit, unsafe out there. Probably not the best thing to drive in right about now. And I'm just saying. Gotta be careful outside and whatnot. But when we finally kiss goodnight, oh, I'll hate going out in the storm. But if you really hold me tight, all the way home I'll be warm. The fire is slowly dying, and my dear, we're still goodbying. As long as you love me so, let it snow, 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 let it snow.
If you order now, we'll also include Dane's rendition of Dreidel, Dreidel, Dreidel.
Dreidel, 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 I made you out of clay. And when you're dry and ready, then dreidel I shall play. Oh, dreidel, 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 I made you out of clay. And when you're dry and ready, then dreidel I shall play.
This will most certainly annoy that special someone.
What the heck?
Buy this awful album today, available at Borders Bookstore. Yes, we know they're out of business, that's the point.
Oh, come on, it wasn't that bad. Come on, give me a little bit of a break here. Matt Clark coming back at you here. You know, I have to say, my gift to humanity will be limiting my singing in public, and whether that's on the radio, whether that's singing aloud while walking down the street, that is my gift to you. Merry Christmas, Southeast Michigan. I will cut back my singing. Welcome back to it. My name is Matt Clark. This is the Clarkcast. Check out my website, www.clarkcast.com. A couple moments here to the very end of the big broadcast right here. You know, I wanted to do another public service announcement outside of saying that I will no longer be singing aloud. I thought that was a very good PSA for everybody. Not to mention really a humanitarian effort to really cut back my singing. But I want to do another PSA because this is something that has really, really been eating at me for a long time, and I just wanted to take a step back and really vent on the air about this. You know, I was speaking with an officer from the Pittsfield Township Police Department. I won't name his name, but it was in the normal day-to-day routine that he stopped by the station. Very nice man, very nice man. And you know what? I want to give a whole shout-out, or as the president would say, I want to give a shout-out, Pittsfield Township Police Department. You guys are all stand-up guys, at least everybody that I met. And there was a lady in there, so you are all stand-up individuals, and I very much appreciate the service that you guys do, putting your life on the line sometimes, especially in this neck of the woods here. So let me first and foremost say that, but I was speaking with an officer of the Pittsfield Township Police Department, and we were talking about traffic laws. And one of the things that just really, really, really bothers me is the way people drive today. And you know what? I may be talking about you. Especially if I'm talking about you, you need to listen. Please turn up your radio. Take notes. Yeah, this is coming from a 26-year-old somebody who you probably think, oh my gosh, you're just a kid. You don't know how to drive. Well, I tell you what, I'll challenge that. I will challenge that. But I was speaking with this officer about a whole myriad of different traffic this, traffic that, asking about the law just to seek perfect clarity. So when I come on the radio here, I don't have somebody emailing me, that's against the law, you can't do that. Or I can do that because that's not against the law. Let's start here. Texting. Don't do it while driving. Even if it wasn't against the law, which, by the way, it is, you shouldn't be doing that. Look up and just drive your car. Some of you, and this is where I'm somewhat guilty at times, you sit at a traffic light, especially near the radio station here at the corner of Washtenaw and Carpenter. You will sit there for 4 minutes on a good day. So you can't help but get out your cell phone, get out your smartphone, and just start texting away, checking email, whatever. You know what? I get that. I understand that. But most of you don't know how to look up and go, oh, it's green. And I think green means go. So let me go ahead, put down my phone, put my car in drive, and then go. No, pay attention. Put away your phone. Which leads me to my next part of this public service announcement here. When the light turns green, that should be all hands on deck. We want to get as many cars through that light as safely as possible, but as quickly as possible. You know, when I'm sitting at a left lane turn, it never, I swear, I don't have road rage. It may seem like it, but I really don't. I'm sitting in the left turn lane, and I'm waiting for the light to turn green. I'm maybe 10 cars, 5 cars, whatever, behind the very first car. And the instant the light turns green, I'm ready to go. I always count how many seconds before that first driver realizes, oh, it's green. Oh, I could probably go now. Oh, okay. And because that guy didn't go when it turned green, I have to wait for another rotation, another round of waiting at a red light. So, part of the PSA right here, why don't you just go when the light is green, please? And by the way, since we're talking about turning, always use your turn signal. If you are one of those drivers out there that does not use their turn signal, I don't care whether it's the middle of the night and there's nobody around and you're making a right turn into your own personal driveway. I don't care. Use your turn signal. Most of you know I'm a runner. So even when I'm not driving, I still rely as a runner on other cars using their turn signal to know where they're going for my own safety and, well, for yours as well. Make sure you use your turn signal. Why is that so hard? Send me an email if you're like, we shouldn't use turn signals. I don't like it. Send me an email. I want to hear from you. And last, because I know my time is very short, parking. Those 2 lines that you park in between. That preposition is the key phrase of the sentence. Between the 2 lines. Not on, not over. I don't care if the car next to you is just as much of a dumbass and doesn't know how to park. You don't park on the line and you don't park over the line. Yes, you should do a full, thorough inspection every time you park. Am I over the line? No. Am I on the line? No. I'm good to go. I can go and commence whatever it is that I was doing. That's what you should do. I know I'm losing people rapidly with that quick, short PSA. You are welcome. Follow those guidelines. Most of the time, what I just said, follow the rules. Those are follow the rules. And we'll all be just a little better off. First I hit you with the Matt Clark Christmas album, then I lecture you on driving. Oh, man. Ooh. Must love me, don't you? Thanks for listening to this week's edition of the Clarkcast radio program. As always, check out my website, www.clarkcast.com, for show highlights, videos, and podcasts. As always, I'll catch you next week.
This is the Clarkcast with Matt Clark.
So what is the best way to get your message out? To make your business known? Well, that's easy. It's advertising on radio programs like the Clarkcast. See, unlike music stations, talk radio demands awareness and thought. You don't believe me? You're listening to me right now. You're thinking about this message right now. And our listeners, they pay attention, not only to the programming, but to the advertisements that air throughout the show. If you want to build your business's presence not only to Southeast Michigan, but also online around the world, consider advertising on the Clarkcast and this radio station. There are several packages available, and there's one to suit your budgetary needs. So what do you say? Let's get started. Drop us an email, and we'll discuss the best way to get your message across on WAAM, on the Clarkcast, and online. It's pretty easy. It's pretty simple to do. All you got to do is email advertise@clarkcast.com. That's advertise@clarkcast.com.